Morning, good afternoon, beg your pardon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mauro Ferraresi. I'm a moderator of a discussion that we are going to have with Enrica Arena. She's a co-founder of Orange Fiber, and the discussion will be about the topic fashion and sustainability, current situation and future challenges. Yes, my role is only as a moderator. So I would like to ask, for start, I would like to ask to Enrica Arena, what is Orange Fiber? I mean, I suppose it's a startup, but I would like she could explain to all the people following us when you decided to start with Orange Fiber and why Orange Fiber is special. Please,
Thank you.
Enrica.
Yeah. So Orange Fiber is a startup, but of course it's also a company established in Italy to create sustainable materials for fashion. And it's left after orange juice is produced. So you imagine that every time a fresh orange is squeezed, half of its product to get rid of in the household is not a big deal, but if we have to deal with it at the industrial level, this can actually become a problem. So I would be happy to walk you through my presentation where I give you a little bit more information about the company. So we are here to talk about sustainable fashion, and the main reason is because it has been said that fashion has very detrimental impacts on the whole world in terms of supply chain, but of course in terms of environment. And this is mainly due, on one hand, on the demand for raw materials and of course all the logistics that is behind the supply chain, but also on the use of the products that we make every day and how they impact the planet. I'm talking about the temperature at which we wash our clothes. I'm talking about the microplastics that are released after every washes. So fashion as a whole is one of the industry that has most impact on our lives and on our planet. So what we do is that we actually take the raw material to make a fabric from a byproduct. This byproduct, as I said before, comes from fresh oranges that are squeezed for food consumption, so we are not rival to food consumption, but from the byproduct that will have to be disposed. So just in Italy, this number amounts at more than 1 million ton every year, and this is just a small part of all the amount of the byproduct that is available worldwide. So that's exactly what we are tackling, and we are tackling it creating the yarn and the fabric that I'm going to show you, thus saving land, water, fertilizers, and of course environmental pollution. So if we want to go to our supply chain, we are acting as an integrators, because normally you will have in our sector the cellulose man-made fibers. You will have trees and forestry resources that are transformed into cellulose pulp. This cellulose pulp is later transformed into either viscose or lyocell or cupro or acetate. These are like different ways to create fibers out of cellulose. And then there will be companies in charge of spinning and weaving. Normally, this is a very vertical supply chain. So those who deal with wood mainly deal with wood. Those who deal with pulping are mainly dealing with pulping, and those who are dealing with fiber making are mostly dealing with fiber making. So nobody is still acting as an integrator, and that's what we are doing. So in Sicily. We have our plant and our headquarter, and that's where we create the pulp from orange juice byproducts. And this pulp is sent to partners in Europe because this part of the supply chain is not available in Italy. And we take it back after the fiber is made to Italy to be transformed into a yarn and into a fabric. And then we sell it to fashion houses that are, of course, in charge of transforming it into amazing garments according to their creativity and design. So we propose an alternative to wood-based fibers. We are well aware that there are wood-based fibers that are super sustainable, but nevertheless, they are using dedicated resource, whereas we are taking products away from the environment that otherwise would have to be disposed. And these are just a few examples of products that we have developed and exposed to brands and fashion houses. So maybe we want to stop here. If you have questions around the market, or we can enter into that in a later moment.
May I ask you one thing? Because I have a curiosity. You're talking about this. I told you that orange fiber was special, and actually it is. About the fabric, is it good? And the jersey, for example, is it good for winter time or summertime or whatever?
So, given that we start from the fiber, we can blend the fiber with every other possible material to adjust the heaviness and the thermal specialties of the
Okay.
fiber. So, if we use it 100%, like in the twill weight, let's say, this is more silky. So this is something, of course, we can use underneath a jacket, but if not, it will not really protect us from cold weather. Uh, but if we blend it, for instance, with I don't know, recycled wool or recycled cashmere, then we will have a product that blends the quality of cashmere, for instance, with the softness of our material. So I think it's really a tool in the hands of designer to be used as they wish to create a material and a product that is both sustainable and of high quality.
Thank you. You can go in with the market if you like. If there are no questions at the moment, you can explain the market, and then I'll ask you some more questions because I'm curious about about this sort of business. Please.
Thank you. So we can go back to the presentation.
Yeah.
And so, well, I mean, okay, we have heard about the fabric and we might feel it's cool, but then is there a market for that? Because at the end of the day, we need to have clients who buy in, and clients who actually enter a shop or an e-commerce and buy the product that is made in orange fiber. So uh, to make a company, we had to actually study the market and define who is our target. And we have seen that it's very differentiated because we are B2B to C product. So even though we sell to fashion houses, our final clients is always the consumer of the brand. So we have noticed and we have studied that increasingly over the years since 2018, and again this data has been confirmed in 2020 by List, there's a yearly increase in the searches for sustainability related keywords by clients that are looking on internet to find their next product to purchase. So this is like really important because it means that people at least start being aware of what's going on. They want to be informed of the process and the material their products are made of. So in this landscape, brands have started to group together one of the most famous initiatives is the circular fashion system commitment, also known as Global Fashion Agenda, where brands, so the signatories, represents the more than 15% of the world fashion houses, and actually they enter a process to become sustainable, because this also has to be clear. Sustainability is not about the material. Sustainability is about the logistics. Sustainability is about how people are treated throughout the supply chain. It's about the energy that it's used, and it's of course also about uh, the leftovers or the items that goes unsold. So it's very hard for us as a clients to elaborate and evaluate which brands are actually sustainable or not. So to compare, Global Fashion Agenda actually has some interviews that they undertake for each and every single brand that enters the commitment, so that they can evaluate the score and compare. Of course, brands also take separate and individual action towards sustainability. So some of them have sustainability claims, again, about materials or recyclability of the products, whereas some other are really focusing on the reduction of CO2 in the environment and in measuring the environmental profit and loss, for instance, which is a technique that Caring Group has developed and used to assess the materials the brands of their group is using. So uh, on one hand, there's this quest from fashion houses of sustainability and sustainable materials, but on the other hand, this is the general demand for fabrics. And even though 2020 is just an estimate, because we know that COVID had a profound impact on all the supply chain, we can see how from the 90s the number of million meters of fabric that has been traded and transformed into garments has been more than doubled over the years, and this means more impact on the raw material, but also more impact on the management of the waste and the byproducts. So if you have a look at the like part of the diagrams that are more significant, you will see that the orange part of the bar below it represents oil derivatives. That is to say, um, plastic plastic-like materials like polyamide and polyester, whereas the yellowish part above the black bar is cotton, which represents pretty much 25% of the total. So this means that chances are that we are either right now wearing something in cotton or something in polyester, and both of these fibers to be created and while we use them are very impactful on the environment. So cotton, for instance, requires a lot of water, dedicated land, and pesticides, whereas polyester, as we mentioned before, requires a lot of effort for extraction. I mean, oil, we are all familiar with that, but also, for instance, release microplastics in the water every time we wash it, that then goes back in water and goes back in our food supply chain, which is, I mean, pretty much weird to think about. So, as I told you, when a brand decided to enter global fashion agenda, they are interviewed, and one of the questions is what will be the areas of the production chain on which investment in sustainability will be concentrated, and 89% of them responds that raw material will be their first priority, together with design and product development. So this means also that it's not just about material, but it's also about a new generation of designers that have to think about products that could be disassembled at the end of their supply chain, or that could last longer or forever. So this is just an estimate of our market and how much it's worth. So as we are positioned as an alternative to silk, we estimated that the market that we can tackle is 6 to 7% of the total silk market. And this assumption has been made based on the knowledge that if we take into account either cotton or polyester together, 6 to 7% is the level of penetration of their sustainable alternatives. So, assuming that this is true also for silk, we evaluated the total market that we can look at. Of course, we are also considering the value of sustainable man-made cellulosic fibers, because if we look at the product in terms of process, that's how it is categorized. But it's not comparable in terms of production value and costs at the time being. Let's say today we are able to produce 15 tons a year, which is a little more than 1 ton a month, whereas the normal capacity for a cellulosic plant is like 100 ton a day per line of production. So we are not the only one out there. So there are man-made fibers. You will see here them at sky blue. You'll see recycled materials that you will see here in a darker shade of blue. And you will also see the natural fibers. Most of them are not new, but they have been rediscovered, like flax, hemp, rami, kapok. So these are fibers that are natural, so they don't need chemical transformation to be used. And we also mapped here the those materials that come from food waste. So maybe you have heard about Piñatex pineapple leather, milk fiber, opuntia mushroom. Actually, today, for the Italian law, according to Italian law, we cannot really call these materials leather. They are called biocomposites, because you can call a product leather only if it contains leather, which actually makes a lot of sense. But what I would advise you to have a look when you look at these various landscape of materials is to really educate yourself on what's behind, because often behind a product that is self-claimed sustainable, there are, for instance, oil derivatives or other materials that are just blend together. So one part, for instance, is bio-based, the other part is made from plastic. So when we think about sustainability, it's not just about incorporating some part of natural bio-based material, but it's also about how long will that garment last? Will it be possible to reparate it? And if not possible, will it then biodegrade? So I think we really need to take this critical approach on materials if we want to be effective on sustainability. So I will stop here the market overview and open for more questions.
I'd like to, I have a question, but I know there is another question coming from the audience. Let me say first that I appreciate your point of view, not only concerning orange fiber, but concerning the theme of the sustainability, because the sustainability is a theme that you have to face all around. So you have not to think about your local impact, but to the more general impact. So this is very important for me, and this is very important in the fashion system. And I know that the fashion system is going to have more attention about that questions coming from the big stylists such as Armani, for example, just the first name that came in my mind, and the other one are following. But the question from the audience is how about control of quality? And I had Another question, if you like to answer, my personal question is: would you mind to come back to the pandemic situation we are just living, and we we hope that will be finished in few months, let's say. But till now, we are just in the pandemic crisis. So the pandemic and the sustainability. I would like to, if you deep that team, and you, from your point of view, you could explain what you think about it.
Thank you. So on quality control, where when well, we actually work with different suppliers. So at every step of the supply chain, there is a quality control before we go to the next step. So normally we are doing internal quality control, but we also have external analyses that are done. But also, let's say a brand, when they buy some fabric, they also do their own test or they ask for specific trials. So quality control is very much throughout the true supply chain. And also, as we produced in Italy and in general in Europe, we have governing law that are very strict and efficient when it comes to quality. So there's no loss of quality in the final products because the product comes from something there is recycled in this case. So there's no loss of value in these transformation of the byproducts into a new product. As for the pandemic, I think, and that's very personal, that has brought us to think about our pattern and what are we wearing, how often are we buying, do we really need that stuff? So after spending 1 year at home, I think all of us has somehow got more time to look into their wardrobe and take away what is no longer of use, but also kind of rediscover things that have been sit there idle for years. So one of the things that it's coming, and I think that the volume of like sell and traded items is growing, is the second hand and repair market. So we it started with vintage, but now more and more we are acknowledging that sometimes at the same price at which we can find something in a shop, we can also find something that has been pre-loved, but maybe with better quality in terms of the materials that have been used. So this has been a shift. I mean, I was not used when I was in my 20s to buy secondhand. It was something that was considered, I don't know, but not of a high quality. It was maybe within a family to pass the garments through the younger children or the cousins. So it was more like a family trusting rather than buying something used by someone else. Whereas now it's something we are proud of in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of treasure hunting. So I think this has completely changed. Also, the brands are more and more communicating on the materials, which was not done, I would say, 5 years ago. So now we can see in every label stated very clear if the garment is in recycled cotton or if there's wool inside. So we have seen a shift from products that who knows what's in it. I mean, of course it was there, but it was hidden within, while now it's very outside. And the other trend, I think, is timeless. So going back to what Armani said, we really don't need so much things. So it's maybe better to buy products that can live with us, grow with us, and that are not all in 3 months, not just in terms of quality, but also in terms of style. So, one of the things that has been widely discussed is how the basics or classic collection can actually survive the season and still sustain the level of sales that the brands has to live with, because at the end of the day the fashion houses have been are mostly invested by investment funds, and so they also need to keep the pace with sales and production. So we need to find a new balance between the client's needs, the brand's needs, and the limits of our production ecosystem. We can't hear you. And if I can add to that, there's the big topic about the end of life. So in the last years, we have heard about big brands that maybe burn their unsold items to prevent the sitting stock or the dead stock to go on the market at lower prices. So this is crazy as well. I mean, this is something that the brands is paying, the consumers are paying somehow, because that unsold garment will have to be compensated by the next items you are buying, because that was actually never sold. And the environmental loss is crazy. So now we are seeing brands selling their dead stock of fabrics. We have seen entrepreneurship stemming from that, like Progetto Quid in Italy started recovering these fabrics from dead stock and transforming it to new garments. So I think also in all that is unwanted from the brands, from the shops, there's a big potential. On one hand, to produce less and better, so almost on time for the client, and digitalization will help us with that, but also to really get a better use of what has not been sold. So it's a dead stock, whether it's a fabric or a garment.
Okay. Waiting for other questions. I put another question to you because Orange Fiber is teaching us that technology is very important in order to reach a better sustainability about garments and in the fashion systems. The question is, added to the technology, what about the communication? That is my focus, by the way. I mean, how is possible, in your opinion, to communicate all those questions you explained to us so clearly, and reach people? Because, as you said before, the fashion system need clients that must be, let's say, glad and happy to buy, and so we cannot forget that. How can we communicate that the sustainability and the business can go well together?
Thank you. So on one hand, I want to answer on what we have done in terms of communication to make our products appealing, and therefore the client's product appealing for their clients. So I can go back to the slide for a second, and then we go to the next point. So, well, my background is in communication. I'm actually a student of IULM University, both for my degree and master degree. So, communication has been my major for my career, together with then specialization in development cooperation. So there has always been this bridge in between communication and sustainability, but also international relations. So what we have done since the very beginning of the company was to communicate what was unique about the product to our clients and their clients. This sounds redundant, but most of the time we enter into a shop, or we used to enter, because when we started was like 2012, and you have no idea the material you are buying unless you are not in a very high-end shop, where, I mean, it's known because it specializes in cashmere or in silk or in high quality in general. So we wanted to make visible the invisible, so that product is made in orange, and we don't really wanted to have something to sell some just stuff that are of orange color. So the first the first effort in communication was to define a brand identity, but also to be very clear about our product positioning and what was unique about us. And our perfect mix was telling a story about the product, but also telling all that was behind. So the struggles and the successes behind creating a company, and this made easy to understand, but also made people curious how two girls are creating this product and are pushing it through um, into a company that can actually go internationally. So this was our main effort. Of course, we used all the possible media like Facebook, Instagram, and most of our clients' requests actually came from Facebook. So I think we are also living in an incredible time when we can establish very quickly a relationship with clients just by dropping a message in our inbox. That was not the case 10 or 15 years ago, maybe. So that's unique about us. And what the other things we did in parallel in terms of general awareness about sustainability in fashion was to be present and really study and not just focusing on telling the story of our product, but also keeping ourselves busy in have a community with other innovators and other experts in the material science to be able to communicate easily to our public what are the differences among the different materials, because that's what's very hard to understand. It seems like technology is something that we cannot understand. Well, I come from a communication background, and I'm managing a company dealing with chemical engineering. So complexity is my daily nutrition and challenge. But on the other hand, my task is to make this complexity easy to understand for my team, but also for the public who is looking at us to understand what's going on. So we want people to make informed choices. I know it might sound strange, but we don't want them to buy just orange fiber, or maybe we want them not to buy orange fiber because they find that I don't know, to them, organic cotton is better, or this other material, I don't know, it's better for their perception or knowledge about sustainability. But we want them to make informed choices. So this was, and we were not just talking about our product. Actually, most of the time, we are not talking about our products, but we are talking about the company and the ecosystem we are in. So this is just to provide you an image of the first collaboration we made with Ferragamo. And as you can see here, our trademark was on the final garment. So again, for the brands, having ourselves and working together to communicate to the final clients is a way for them to be uh, easy to understand in their commitment to sustainability. I mean, brands are publishing every year 100 pages of sustainability report, but being honest, it's not like something that we want to read every day. So we try to digest the information and make them easily available to our clients. And whoever wants to study more, as we do in the background, we provide them the tools and the guidance. But we also try to be super easy to understand. And this was also a different collaboration we made with H&M for their conscious exclusive. And what has been very unique about this is that the garment was priced more than 100 euros, and it went sold out within 1 hour from the opening of the sales. And we had people reaching out to our Instagram, said, "Oh, can I have? Do you have an extra garment? Can I buy it?" And we were like, "Okay, listen, we of course don't have more. It was the brand producing it and selling it, but when we thought about it with a little bit more calm, it means that people are actually willing to pay more for a piece of garment that has sustainability as its core. Because I mean, the design was cool, but it was not a limited edition design collection. Like, you are not buying Lambent for H&M, but you are buying something that has sustainability as its core value proposition. So I think that's the effort we are making in making sustainability understandable and easy to grasp for the final clients.
Okay. I'll stop you for a while because there is another question coming from the audience, and the question is: can you tell us which has been the most difficult the most difficult challenge you had to face starting Orange Fiber?
Well, there has been a few. It really
Can imagine.
depends on the phase of the lifetime, because the startup, I mean, we still are in startup, and it's been 7 years we have been in the startup phase. So creating a new material, but in general managing a company, you're always like doing, learning, making mistakes, having successes, and start again. So startup is always for us, I think you always have some milestone there that you need to meet, and it opens up a new portal, a new phase. So the first challenge for us was the prototype. So we had registered a patent, but investors were like, "Okay, I see a patent, but then what's the product? I mean," and then you have the product, and they're like, so you got to the prototype, you find the money and the producer for the prototype, and then investors are like, "Okay, but you have a prototype, but who's going to buy it, and how much will it cost when you want to produce 100,000 meters?" And it's like, okay, so you go back, you try to find that answers, and as you find that answers, you're actually moving the company forward. So in the quest of satisfying these requests, you're actually making progress that maybe you would, I don't want to say you wouldn't have done otherwise, but it's like you're pushing yourself forward, because at the end of the day you are lacking money or you are lacking people, so you need the investors, or you need that milestone to unlock something else. So the challenge is really daily. And I think another challenge that is quite typical of the Italian ecosystem, but in general it's true, is the team. Not because you, I mean, okay, you can meet people during university, or you might have an idea and then find yourself some people that want to start with you. But as the company grow, people have to change, whether they change internally or they have to be changed externally. But I think this is also one of the things that we don't consider. I mean, I hope one day someone better than me will take my place, but this is not the classic feeling that you have when you're growing something. Like someone said, a company is like a baby, and you don't really wish as a mother then someone take care of your child. Or maybe yes, I don't know. But it's like I'm working to make the company survive me or without me. But to do that, you need to find people that are better than you, and most of the time you need money to make them stay. So I think one of the challenges is to find the right mix between enthusiasm, passion, but also being professional in what you're doing. So that at the end, like aside from money, aside from technology, I think attracting talent is also quite a challenge, because we are not in an ecosystem when you, like, you are in your 40s, you have a lot of savings, and you want to take 1 year out just to start up your own company. This is not very classical in Italy. So you end up doing startup right out of the university, or maybe later in your lifetime when you already have professional experience. But it's very hard to leave a job to, I don't know, navigate nowhere for 2 or 3 years. So I think this is also one thing that I hope evolves soon in the startup ecosystem in Italy.
Okay. I'm seeing that time is running out because of your interesting answers. Sorry, and I would like to ask you if you wanted to say something more that you think it could be interesting about Orange Fiber, of course. Otherwise, I'll pose you another question, a last question. No, sorry, I'm stopping because there is another question from the audience. Do you think money coming from the next generation European program will help startup related to sustainability to grow?
Well, I think so. I also think that with public money, no matter where they come from, comes strings attached. So, which, and this is also true with private investors and in general. So, nobody is really giving money away for free. This means that you need to have a very careful financial planning to get this money, but also to manage them. Because most of the time, this money have, like, it's not that you have the money, it's like you need to find private money to leverage the investment, and then part of it is reimbursed. This means that, for instance, if a reimbursement is late for some reason, and with bureaucracy there's always a reason, you might end up in a hard situation because you overspent to meet the requirements of the public. Like, you were like, okay, you thought you had 1 million, so you spend money for 1 million knowing there will be a reimbursement, but the reimbursement is 2 months late, and you still need to pay the production, or you still need to pay the people working with you. So I think behind all of that, you really need to be very careful in planning and execution. Of course, public money is an incredible opportunity to boost and do things quicker, but it's not, or take back some money of the investment you would have done anyways, but cannot be the only way. That you really need to find private investment to leverage. Also, because going back to timeline, when you apply for public money, Italian or European, it normally takes 6 to 9 months before you really have that money available. And I mean, we have seen last year, in 6 to 9 months, the company can change its own face 10 times. Like the machinery you wanted 9 months ago, maybe you have bought it anyways, or maybe you don't need it anymore because the technology is already old. So this kind of program sometimes also pose some limit, because then you are admitted to funding and you have to go back and say, oh, sorry, I don't need that machinery anymore, I need a new one. And then it takes 4 months to get the answer. And you are back in the same situation. So I think that what really brings this money, like EU money, I think the big opportunity they bring aside from money is to create relationship with established companies that want to do open innovation. So these allow them to invest or work with startups that otherwise are slow and underfunded, and really find effective solutions. So I think that the way to move forward in the European ecosystem is not just about uh, EU funding in general just for startup, but for startup to collaborate with existing company to scale quickly their products to the market.
Thank you, Enrica. Is there something you skipped that you want to point out? Otherwise, I'll pose you my last question, and my last question is, what do you see in the future? I mean, in the next few years, what will happen, in your opinion, about the sustainability in the fashion system?
Well, I hope I can see in the future. But no, what I see is that in the last 7 years, a lot of energy has been put in the space of innovative materials, and this is paying out. So there have been investment of 220 million euros in machineries to produce sustainable materials, and this was the big gap for sustainability in fashion when it comes to raw materials. So you have an innovation, but you are not big enough to sell that innovation to everyone. So the next big thing to me is recycling and secondhand. So I really think that also because there's a new law in the EU entering into force 2022, 2023, the next big thing is going to be, okay, how are we taking care of unwanted clothes or clothes that can still uh, live? And there's a lot of value there that brands are trying to capture. So Zalando just launched the second hand, for instance. There are already business model of brands that are renting their own clothing, or uh, like rental model and secondhand will be the next big thing, according to me, together with big data and customization. So if a brand has a really accurate profile about me, and I shift my mentality in made to order. Instead, I walk in a shop and I want to find the piece there, but I'm able to wait 5, 6 days for delivery. And that's what we start to be used to somehow for other goods. Then this could really be the shift, because you have you don't have a dead stock. You have things that are produced in proximity, so last mile production for the client. This means that maybe in the same price, you have less products produced, and we are very aware when we buy something. It's not okay. I walk in, I like that thing, and then I will never wear it. So I hope that in the future we will all be more aware of our choices. And I always challenge people to think at themselves as investor and not as a customer. Because every time we buy something, imagine what has happened with organic, or what is happening with poke. Like the poke houses are raising incredible money just because people are going there, so their revenues increase, and as their revenue increase, someone will come and put money in to have more restaurants like that, because people are going there. So when people started buying organic food because they thought it was good for their health, someone backward received that input and started changing their production to organic farming. And now we can find organic everywhere. So our choices actually has an incredible impact on who is producing our goods. So that's the same with sustainability for fashion. Every time we buy sustainable, we are actually leveraging an investment in someone in the supply chain who will get better money or better funding to produce a more sustainable product in the future. So this, I think, it's a mind shift that we all need to consider, not just being buyer, but being active actors in our ecosystem, social, environmental, and for goods production as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I personally have to say that I have been listening to you with a lot of interest, and I appreciate your thought and what have you done in these years. I think is very important. I want to thank all the audience for the question that you posed. I want to thank you, Enrica Arena. I would like to, let's say, see you in the future, and as a head of a, let's say, big movement on sustainability in fashion system. Thank you very much, Enrica. I leave you the opportunity to say hello to all the people, please.
Thank you to everyone who joined, and I hope this conversation inspired you. And feel free to reach out to us for any further question on our social media or through the website, and we will get back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.